Hello everyone, and welcome to Reading with Mrs. Adams. I'm Mrs. Adams, and today I've selected 3 stories and 2 poems all about owls. I also have something I'd like to share with you. This is my owl whistle. It's hand carved, and it looks exactly like an owl, and it sounds like an owl too. I'm going to use it today, boys and girls, to help me tell the stories. Listen. The first story that I'm going to read to you today, boys and girls, is called Owl Moon. It's a Caldecott Award winner, and it's written by Jane Yolen and wonderfully illustrated by John Schoenherr. It's about a little girl who goes owling with her father. When someone goes owling, that means they go in search of an owl, and they do it late at night. I hope you enjoy Owl Moon. Owl Moon by Jane Yolen, illustrated by John Schoenherr. Owl Moon by Jane Yolen, illustrated by John Schoenherr. Philomel Books, New York. For my husband David, who took all of our children owling, J.Y. To my granddaughter Nisa, for when she is old enough to go owling, J.S. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind, the trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. I could hear it through the woolen cap Pa had pulled down over my ears. A farm dog answered the train, and then a second dog joined in. They sang out, trains and dogs, for a real long time. And when their voices faded away, it was as quiet as a dream. We walked on toward the woods, Pa and I. Our feet crunched over the crisp snow, and little gray footprints followed us. Pa made a long shadow, but mine was short and round. I had to run after him every now and then to keep up, and my short, round shadow bumped after me. But I never called out. If you go owling, you have to be quiet. That's what Pa always says. I had been waiting to go owling with Pa for a long, long time. We reached the line of pine trees, black and pointy against the sky, and Pa held up his hand. I stopped right where I was and waited. He looked up, as if searching the stars, as if reading a map up there. The moon made his face into a silver mask. Then he called. The sound of a great horned owl. Again he called out, and then again. After each call he was silent, and for a moment we both listened, but there was no answer. Pa shrugged, and I shrugged. I was not disappointed. My brothers all said, sometimes there's an owl, sometimes there isn't. We walked on. I could feel the cold as if someone's icy hand was palmed down on my back. And my nose and the tops of my cheeks felt cold and hot at the same time. But I never said a word. If you go owling, you have to be quiet, and you make your own heat. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I had ever seen. They stained the white snow. My mouth felt furry, for the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kinds of things hid behind black trees in the middle of the night. When you go owling, you have to be brave. Then we came to a clearing in the dark woods. The moon was high above us. It seemed to fit exactly over the center of the clearing, and the snow below it was whiter than the milk in a cereal bowl. I sighed, and Pa held up his hand at the sound. I put my mittens over the scarf, over my mouth, and listened hard. And then Pa called, I listened and looked so hard, my ears hurt and my eyes got cloudy with the cold. Pa raised his face to call out again, but before he could open his mouth, an echo came threading its way through the trees. Pa almost smiled. Then he called back. Just as if he and the owl were talking about supper, or about the woods, or the moon, or the cold. I took my mitten off the scarf, off my mouth, and I almost smiled too. The owl's call came closer from high up in the trees on the edge of the meadow. Nothing in the meadow moved. All of a sudden, an owl shadow, part of the big tree shadow, lifted off and flew right over us. We watched silently with heat in our mouths, the heat of all those words we had not spoken. The shadow hooted again. Pa turned on his big flashlight and caught the owl just as it was landing on a branch. For 1 minute, 3 minutes, maybe even 100 minutes, we stared at one another. Then the owl pumped its great wings and lifted off the branch like a shadow without sound. It flew back into the forest. "Time to go home," Pa said to me. I knew then I could talk. I could even laugh out loud. But I was a shadow as we walked home. When you go owling, you don't need words or warm or anything but hope. That's what Pa says. The kind of hope that flies on silent wings under a shining owl moon. And that is the end of Owl Moon, written by Jane Yolen, illustrated by John Schoenherr. The first poem I'd like to read to you today, boys and girls, is called The Wise Old Owl. It's a traditional nursery rhyme. It has lots of rhyming words, and I hope you enjoy it. The Wise Old Owl. A wise old owl sat in an oak. The more he heard, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why aren't we all like that wise old bird? Traditional Mother Goose. The next story I have for you today, boys and girls, is called Owls. It's written and illustrated by Gail Gibbons. Now, this is informational text, so it's filled with lots of fun and interesting facts about owls. I hope you enjoy it. Owls by Gail Gibbons. Owls by Gail Gibbons, Holiday House, New York. To Dr. Kirchen, special thanks to Barbara Allen Lukes, research scientist, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. On silent wings, a bird swoops down in the moonlight. The bird is an owl. Using its powerful claws, it grabs a field mouse. Owls are raptors. Raptors are birds of prey, meaning they are hunters that eat meat. They grab their prey with claws called talons that are very sharp. The word raptor comes from the Latin word rapere, meaning to grab or seize by force. The word owl comes from the Old English word youl, meaning to howl. This refers to the sound owls make. Claws called talons. And this is the great horned owl. Most scientists believe there are about 140 different kinds of owls living around the world. They live on every continent except Antarctica. It is believed that there are 21 different kinds of owls living in North America. The smallest owl, the elf owl, is 5 inches, or 12.5 centimeters long, from the top of its head to the tip of its tail. The largest owl, the great gray owl, is 33 inches, or 82.5 centimeters long. Owls of North America: vermiculated owl, flammulated owl, saw-whet owl, western screech owl, eastern screech owl, northern hawk owl, barred owl, spotted owl, barn owl, snowy owl, great horned owl, great gray owl, elf owl, whiskered screech owl, mountain pygmy owl, ferruginous owl, northern pygmy owl, burrowing owl, boreal owl, short-eared owl, long-eared owl. Most owls have the same basic characteristics. The male is usually a little smaller than the female. These are eastern screech owls, and this probably is the male and this is the female. And these are the ear tufts. They're not actually ears, they're made from feathers. Sometimes they're called feather tufts. This is the crown, the ears, here and over here, the eyes, the neck, the facial discs are the feathers that are around the eyes, the beak, the throat, the breast, the belly, the toes, and then the feet and the leg up a little higher, the claws called talons, right here, very sharp, tail feathers, the wings, the back, the neck. And as I said just a minute ago, the ears are here, they're behind the facial discs. There are 2 different types of owls. Owls with round facial discs are straggedy owls, and owls with heart-shaped facial discs are titanidae owls. So this is an example of a heart-shaped facial disc on the barn owl, and on the barred owl are round facial discs. The eyes of an owl cannot move in their eye sockets to watch for prey. Instead, owls have flexible necks that can twist almost completely around. They can even turn their heads upside down. These are short-eared owls, and this is an example of being able to turn the head upside down, and they can turn their heads back one way, almost looking behind them, or back the other way to do the same thing. And this is the eye and the eye socket, and there's a thick eyelid, the nictitating membrane. It protects and keeps the eye clean. As you can see, it's not completely solid. You can see a little bit through it from the outside, but it helps to keep the eye clean, which is very important for the owl since it needs its eyesight, its sharp eyesight, for hunting at night. Most owls hunt at night. day or night, they can see much better than people. This is a boreal owl. Owls that hunt at night are nocturnal. Eyes and ears. Owls have very large eyes. Owls can change the focus of their eyes very rapidly and see great distances. At night, the pupils of their eyes get big. This allows more light to enter into their eyes, giving them unusually good vision in the dark. This is a saw-whet owl, and this is what his eyes look like in the daylight. The pupil is very small. It's just a black dot. But at night, the same owl, the saw-whet owl, has pupils that get very big. It's like the lens of a camera, and it allows more light to enter into the eye and helps them see very well at night. Most owls rely on their keen hearing for hunting rather than their excellent vision. Their ears are hidden behind their facial disc feathers. These discs act like dish antennas to funnel sound to their ears. Owls are constantly turning their heads to hear better. This is a picture of a dish antenna that some people have on the outside of their homes to be able to get television reception. And they work sort of the same way as the facial discs on the owl. In many owls, one ear will be higher on the head than the other. The higher ear hears sounds from above, and the lower ear hears sounds from below. This is the great horned owl, and remember, these are ear tufts or feather tufts. They're not the ears of the owl. They're feathers that just come off the crown of the owl's head and look like a horn, and that's why this owl is called the great horned owl. An owl attacks its prey silently. When flying, it can move its wings without making a sound. Silence. So this is the great gray owl. It's stretching out its feet and toes, ready to grasp the mouse that's running. An owl's bones are very light, and they are full of air. The strength of an owl's wings and the lightness of its bones give an owl extraordinary lifting power. And as soon as it grasps its prey, it lifts off very quickly. Strong legs and toes and long needle-sharp curved talons give owls great grasping power. Most owls kill their prey by biting it at the base of the neck. So this is an example of a barred owl. There's a green snake slithering through the grass. And again, its outstretched toes and talons are ready to grasp the snake, and it carries it off quickly. Different owls have different diets. They may eat squirrels, skunks, rabbits, birds, snakes, insects, and other creatures. Owls usually swallow their food whole, head first. When an owl kills an animal that is too big to swallow whole, it shreds it with its beak. So this barred owl just swallowed the snake whole and just sort of sucks it up like you would a spaghetti noodle. And this great horned owl takes its beak and shreds this larger animal before it eats the pieces of it whole, much like you would cut up your meat with a knife. Owls cannot chew or grind their food. They cough up what they can't digest in pellets. The pellets usually contain fur and bones. So this is an example of a pellet. And here's a picture of an enlarged picture of a pellet. Scientists study pellets to learn the food that different kinds of owls eat. Many owls rest or roost during the day. Some owls nap from time to time, resting their heads on their chests. Other owls twist their heads around to rest them on their backs. So this is an example of an elf owl. It's sleeping in a hollow cactus and resting its head on its chest, and the great horned owl has turned its head all the way around and is resting its head on its back. Hoot, hoot, screech, screech. Owls communicate in many ways. They may use sounds to claim a territory, to warn of danger, or call to a mate. Some people think owl sounds are eerie. This is a barred owl. Hoo, 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 ah! The snowy owl. Crow, crow! The boreal owl. Ting, ting, ting! And a great horned owl. Hoo, hoo, hoo! Owls make nesting sites in unusual places. They may nest in hollow trees, in tree stumps, on the ground, or in abandoned birds' nests. The eastern screech owl has found its home in a hollow trunk of a tree. The elf owl, there's two of them. One is just perched up there on a bit of the cactus, but the other one is inside the hollow of the cactus. And this is a great gray owl, so it's found its home on an empty tree branch. When a male barn owl courts a female barn owl, he will bring food to her as an offering. Often he flutters his powerful wings and hovers over her to get her attention. The male's mating call is crew, crew. Many owls mate for life. When the female accepts the male, they mate. Then they choose a nesting site for the female to lay her eggs. Often they choose an old barn hayloft. Barn owls don't build nests. They use a space that is dark and safe. And the farmers don't mind the owls roosting or making their nest in the hayloft of the barn because owls eat the mice that would eat all of the grain that the farmer has grown for all of his other animals. In about 2 weeks, the female begins laying her eggs. She lays one egg at a time every 2 days. At the end of 10 days, there are 5 eggs. She sits on them, keeping them warm. This is called incubation. So there's the egg. Barn owls can lay 2 to 11 eggs. Incubation means keeping an egg warm while a chick grows inside its shell. A group of eggs is called a clutch. About 1 month later, the female hears a faint peep coming from one of the eggs. The shell begins to crack. The first owlet uses its egg tooth to break free from the shell. The tiny owl is blind and helpless and has no feathers, but it can hear all the sounds around it. The male has been hunting, bringing food to its mate. There's the egg tooth. A baby owl is called an owlet. The barn owlet may weigh only 3/4 of an ounce or 21 grams. And there's the picture of the male bringing food to its mate. Two days later, the next owlet hatches. The mother keeps them warm and protects them with her soft feathers. At 2 weeks old, the owlets can see. They are covered with soft down. Now both parents must hunt to feed their hungry brood. The down is the soft feathers, and a group of owlets cared for together is called a brood. 2 weeks old, the owlets can swallow their food whole. Now the owlets are 1 month old. They have their feathers. Their eyesight is good. The owlets are very active and jump on the food their parents bring. They try flying. When the owlets are 2 months old, they have moved outside of the barn and are able to fly. But they still need their parents to help them get food. When the young owls are about 5 months old, they are able to live on their own. Years ago, there were many more owls in the world than there are today. People killed owls to protect smaller livestock. Farmers and others used chemicals to protect crops, plants, and trees from insects. Also, natural habitats were destroyed as people moved into wilderness areas. There's a picture of a farmer shooting an owl because he's afraid that the owl will probably eat the lambs. And chemicals from airplanes that weakened the eggshells of the owls, so not as many owlets survived. And then, of course, men cutting down trees to make room for houses took away the habitats of the owls. Today, certain places have been set aside as reserves to protect owls. Some zoos have breeding programs for endangered owls. Owls play an important role in the balance of our natural world. Endangered means in danger of no longer existing. This is a spotted owl living in a wildlife reserve. When the owls are old enough, they are released back into their natural environments. People don't see owls very often. That's because most owls are creatures of the night. When you are out in the country at night, listen carefully. You might hear the sound of an owl. Hoo! Hoo! Hoot, hoot, hoot. Scientists believe owls have been around for about 65 million years. The Greek goddess Athena sometimes kept a small owl on her shoulder. She was the Greek goddess of wisdom. Perhaps that's how the saying, wise as an owl, began. A large owl in the wild can live to be 30 years old. In a zoo, where it is protected, an owl can live to be 60 years old. Large owls live longer than small owls. The burrowing owl can protect its burrows by making the sound of a rattlesnake. The barn owl has the best hearing of all owls. It can hear a mouse's footsteps 90 feet or 2,700 centimeters away. Barn owls are sometimes called monkey-faced. The snowy owl has feathers on its feet, so it won't get frostbite. It is hard to spot owls in the wild during the day. Their feathers camouflage them. That means they blend in with their surroundings. A group of owls is called a parliament. And people who stay up late at night are called night owls. And that is the end of Owls by Gail Gibbons. The final poem I have for you today, boys and girls, is called Owl by Leslie Tryon. Owl. Who was the owl who flew last night? Who was the owl with eyes so bright? Who was that owl hooting in the night? Who was the owl in silent flight? Who was the owl? Will I hear him tonight? By Leslie Tryon. Our third and final story today, boys and girls, is called Owl Babies. It's written by Martin Waddell and illustrated by Patrick Benson. This is one of my favorites. I hope it will be one of yours as well. Owl Babies by Martin Waddell, illustrated by Patrick Benson. For Hannah, all by herself, M.W. For Georgie and Eddie Huntley, P.B. Owl Babies, written by Martin Waddell, illustrated by Patrick Benson. Once there were 3 baby owls, Sarah, Percy, and Bill. They lived in a hollow in the trunk of a tree with their owl mother. The hole had twigs and leaves and owl feathers in it. It was their house. One night they woke up and their owl mother was gone. "Where's Mommy?" asked Sarah. "Oh my goodness," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. The baby owls thought. All owls think a lot. "I think she's gone hunting," said Sarah. "To get us our food," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. But their owl mother didn't come. The baby owls came out of their house and they sat on the tree and waited. A big branch for Sarah, a small branch for Percy, and an old piece of ivy for Bill. "She'll come back," said Sarah. "Back soon," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. It was dark in the woods, and they had to be brave, for things moved all around them. "She'll bring us mice and things that are nice," said Sarah. "I suppose so," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. They sat and they thought. All owls think a lot. "I think we should all sit on my branch," said Sarah, and they did, all three together. "Suppose she got lost," said Sarah. "Or a fox got her," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill, and the baby owls closed their owl eyes and wished their mother would come. And she came. Soft and silent she swooped through the trees to Sarah and Percy and Bill. "Mommy!" they cried, and they flapped and they danced and they bounced up and down on their branch. "What's all the fuss?" their owl mother asked. "You knew I'd come back," the baby owls thought. All owls think a lot. "I knew it," said Sarah. "And I knew it," said Percy. "I love my mommy," said Bill. And that is the end of Owl Babies, written by Martin Waddell, illustrated by Patrick Benson. I really enjoyed reading all the stories and poems about owls today, boys and girls, and I hope you enjoyed it too. I also hope that you learned something new and interesting about owls. Always remember one truth, and that is that God loves you so much. So dare to dream the impossible, because all things are possible with God. I love you, and I'll see you next time on Reading with Mrs. Adams. Goodbye.